What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Gifted Hoops podcast. I'm joined here today by some passionate Rockets fans for the official Rockets breakdown episode. This is Will and Brad. Please introduce yourselves to the people.
Oh, it was great. It's the first time I've ever been introduced as Will first. It's always the Brad and Will, so I appreciate that, Gifted. But yeah, it's Brad and Will. You know, you can find us on Instagram, Twitter. We run a podcast on YouTube and all the other streaming platforms called The Brad and Will Show. We just had Alper and Shingun on, I think, about 2 weeks ago. So if you're interested in anything Rockets content-wise, or just want to hear our takes about the NBA world, that's where you're going to find us.
Yeah, Will described it perfectly. Again, The Brad and Will Show. We're trying to run it up this off season, trying to get some more interviews. So definitely stay tuned there. As for my personal, y'all can find me at Brado NBA on Instagram, Twitter. I got Rocket stats, highlights, news, updates, all that good stuff. If you care about the Rockets, that's where you can find them. All
right. Well, big shout out to those people. I want to officially get right into the episode, but make sure to tap in to those guys. Again, they have a great podcast. I've been hearing a bunch of their episodes and they're consistent, so tap in with the homies. But let's officially get into the podcast here. What I want to ask you guys is, coming into 2023, what were your expectations for the Rockets coming in? What were the biggest things you guys wanted to see for the 2023 season? I'll begin this with Will first. You can go ahead.
Okay. 2023. So that was coming into last season. Obviously, I wanted to see them take a step forward in the win department. I didn't think they were ever. I didn't think they were going to be a play-in team this year. I didn't think they were going to be they kind of finished as far as placement goes, kind of where I thought they were going to finish anyway. So for me, it was just about seeing. Obviously, I wanted to see more wins in the win column than there was last year. I think if we had somehow won the same or fewer games than we did the previous season, I think that would have been a little bit concerning. So just to see some development and growth in that win department, that was obviously a huge thing for me. But when you have a young team like the Rockets did last year, and I guess even going into next season, the important thing for us was just to see the guys in the team continue to grow, continue to gel, and just get better, every single day, every single game. And so, yeah, those are kind of just my expectations on it. I didn't expect too much from it. Am I supposed to talk about just my expectations, or did we reach those expectations? Because I think those are two different things.
We'll get to that conversation right after this one. I just want to get your guys' full base expectations before any ball was played. So
yeah, it was just, like I said, just to continue to get better from game 1 to game 82. Do they look better? Is the team gelling better? Are they picking up on winning and good habits that they can translate to the next season and then the seasons after that, when we're trying to actually start winning basketball games? So it was a development and a growth year. There wasn't too many expectations in terms of winning this amount of games or making the play-in, making the playoffs. It was just, can you guys get better from game 1 to game 82, at least for me?
For me, I would definitely say, from that first year with Jalen Green for this past season, they got rid of Christian Wood. There was hierarchy questions with Christian Wood there, him being gone. Yeah, Albert Shangoon being that starting center. I wanted to see more of a direction. I was like, okay, Jalen Green is now in order to take a huge leap. So I'm excited for that. He's obviously number 1 in the pecking order. How are they going to be able to make sure he succeeds to the best of his abilities? And how are they going to force feed Shangoon and make sure he's doing, what he's supposed to be doing down in the post? But I mean, overall, when I look at the season, I really just wanted to see development, because that wasn't a team constructed to win games. They had 10 players, 22 or younger on that roster. So off top, they're not going to make the playoffs. You just want to see them make those developmental strides that put them in the right place in the future. And I want to see good habits, as Will said, on a game-to-game basis. I wanted to see improvement. I wanted to see structure. And ultimately, my main thing, Will and I talked about this on our podcast before last season, I wanted to see an identity. What is this team's identity? What are they going to do? And are they going to stick with that? And is it going to be consistent? And we'll dive into how that identity looks later.
Yeah, I gotta say, for me, as a non-Rockets fan, I viewed it as another year for a young team to develop, get better, play more minutes, and set a blueprint for, okay, this is how we want to play. These are going to be our foundational pieces, to set a culture, because for younger teams, the hardest thing to do in the NBA is to win at a high level. So having a blueprint and a system in place to help you do that for multiple seasons after the fact is the number one thing. For me, selfishly, when I watched Summer League and I saw Jalen Green and Alperen Şengün on the court together, and I first saw Şengün, I'm like, Şengün is going to be outstanding. The off-ball play from Jalen Green, I saw a lot of like great things for hope. And then the season started. So now, Will, this is the part where we can get into how you felt for the upcoming season, like everything that happened in 2023. What were your brightest spots and your darkest spots, in your opinion?
I'll start with the brightest. I think that Jalen Green, he showed you some flashes like to his game that we didn't necessarily see with him coming into the draft, and these are kind of things we didn't think he was either going to be, ever good at, or as good as he is, like as he is right now. Like he's a little bit ahead of schedule in these departments. I thought that Jalen, he's still not the world's best playmaker, but I thought that he made a lot of really good reads and a lot of great passes for his role. That like he made some passes and like some decisions with the ball that I didn't think that Jalen Green would be capable of making at this soon, or like I said, ever in his career. So to see him be able to make those decisions, with the ball in his hands, that was really important for me. And then he was really, really good at getting to the free throw line. Like I think that was the biggest shock for me was how well he was at getting to the free throw line and drawing fouls. It's kind of funny. He's not the same, foul merchant as like James Harden, but it's like we're transitioning from James Harden getting to the line all the time to Jalen Green getting to the line all the time. So those two things for Jalen, that was like a really good development for me. I thought that Alperen Şengün made the most of a pretty, I guess you could say, interesting situation for him, because he wasn't necessarily supposed to be the primary focus of our team.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, he came off the bench to start last season. So there was it was like some questions about his role and his place on this team in terms of like, is he going to be a role player? Is he a focal point? Is he just another guy out there? Like, where does he fit into this equation? And I think, like I said, he kind of started the season off as more of like the bench piece, the role player. And by the new year, he was, in my opinion, I think he was the best player on our team last year. And so to see him be able to kind of, I wouldn't say break out, because I still think there's a whole other level he can kind of tap into, and he's still young, and we didn't necessarily win any games last year, but to see him kind of elevate his game from where he was his rookie season to now, where it's like, okay, like this guy is, for sure a piece that, no matter where you kind of lie on the Şengün spectrum, like this is a guy you at least you owe it to yourself to see what he can do. When you put him around, Coach Udoka and a more experienced and like ready to win roster than one he had last year, because he made, like I said, he made the best of a bad situation. So I'm assuming that if you put him in a situation that's like not as bad, maybe he'll look even better than he did, last year. So I think that was a really good development. Man, is that where I must call it? I don't even know if I'm like, am I going to Jabari? I mean, Jabari has some. I mean, he'll tell you he didn't have the rookie season that he wanted, but I also don't hold that like against him. Like I'm not saying it's fault. I mean, he was one of the youngest players in the NBA last year, and I mean that kind of segues into like the negatives. Like I mean, he had a coach who openly admitted he was not running plays for him. Like that was crazy to me. That was tough. That's crazy that like you're admitting that you're not running plays for the number 3 pick in the draft. And so I thought that like one of the negatives, or where we kind of failed last year, was I do think that, and I don't want to kick a man while he's down, but I thought Stephen Silas found a pretty unique way to misuse just about everybody on our team, right? Like I thought that Şengün was not used the way he was supposed to be. I thought that Jalen was not used, like just off of those two guys alone, like we've seen enough flashes for those two guys that like their 2-man game, whether it's coming off of DHOs or Jalen cutting to the basket, or
it was literally in Summer League. You literally saw it in Summer League. Yeah, they
were pretty good. Like as Jalen as the pick and roll ball handler, Şengün as the screener, the roller to the basket. Like there's all types of actions that you can run just off of those two guys, and we just never did it. Like those are things that we just did not do, which is crazy that if you think it, like just saying it out is crazy. And like with Jabari, he was kind of stuck in the corner for all the season. And while I do believe that like his role will be more oriented towards catching and shooting threes, he showed us that like, hey, like I'm pretty good if you put me in the post and let me kind of go to work down there. And I just felt like for a season that you have nothing to lose by experimenting, like I feel like we should have tried to, okay, well, he's struggling a little bit, spotting up shooting threes. Maybe we can unlock a different part of his game if we put him, in those situations. And those are things we didn't try to do. KPJ, I love KPJ. That's probably my favorite player on the roster last season. I thought that I don't have an issue with him necessarily starting, but he should not have been the primary ball handler, right? Like that's a role that like we tried to use him like he was James Harden, and I think KPJ is an extremely talented player, but like he's not James Harden, he's not Trae Young, he's not Luka, and that's not a knock against KPJ. That's just not who he is, and so trying to like pigeonhole him into that role when like, hey, you gotta like, going back to I think it's so crazy because I think Şengün like makes everything so much easier. You have a guy like that who that's kind of what he specializes in is running an offense and being that offensive hub. And you have a guy like KPJ who's a, as Brad would tell you, he's what, a 90 percentile shooter or something like that. Like he's really good at shooting and catching up, spotting up. And then the guy has like some secondary creation skills where he can attack some closeouts and get to the basket. I think he's obviously not a good enough playmaker to be the primary ball handler, but it's like your secondary. I thought he made good enough reads to do that role. So just using him more like that, I thought that was we misutilized KPJ last year. So like it was just a bunch of misutilization. The other key word was accountability. We did not demand accountability on either side of the ball, right? Guys were out there just kind of going through the motions, not getting back on defense, not pouting, putting their head down when the ball didn't go their way, or when they missed a shot. It was just so much stuff like that. It's like, and that's not how you play basketball. If you don't get back on defense, you go sit on the bench, and so they were just out. They were allowed to all season just go out there and do whatever they wanted to do with pretty much no consequences whatsoever. I think that kind of led to them developing some bad habits that I think Udoka was going to have to next season kind of help them break. So that's just kind of my broad over. I don't want to say last season was a failure, but I wouldn't say it was a success either.
Yeah, again, I started off, the first time I talked today, I was talking about identity, and I wanted their identity to be a Şengün-led offense because the offense was way better last season, or his rookie season when they were running through him, and they just traded Christian Wood. So I was like, oh yeah, they're finna run through Alperen Şengün. Let's see what they're talking about. The Silence is like, nah, man, we finna start Bruno Fernando. Like, let's see what this is talking about.
It was, listen, I'm sorry, but like as an outside watcher, seeing him not play Şengün in the second halves of games, and his excuse being, well, this wasn't the right matchup. And it's like, what do you have to lose by developing and finding out your system and your blueprint? I'm 100% with you on that, Brad.
Yeah, and it's also like when it comes to Alperen Şengün, they wanted to stick him in drop coverage. That's another thing with Stephen Silas. He had his methodologies, and he was going to stick with that. He wanted to run a Luka, James Harden-led offense. That's why he was hired to coach James Harden and Russell Westbrook. And he was like, okay, now we got KPJ. We're going to turn KPJ into that. And he was going to stick with that. And same thing with defense. They're going to run drop coverage on defense. And that's not Alperen Şengün's defensive style. We'll talk about it later. That's why I like Udoka. He's not going to coach a specific way. He's going to cater to his players. But yeah, so Şengün was always on the bad side of running drop coverage because he wasn't very good at it. And again, they didn't really want to run through him to start the season. So that was my first thing. They're not running through Şengün. Okay, that's a negative. And then there's a whole bunch of things. Josh Christopher, in my opinion, he didn't show me a lot. I was worried about him. I was excited for him to take a leap. We all said Josh Christopher was probably going to have the best leap in year 2, and he digressed. He didn't look as good. He was a no 3, no D kind of player. So that sucks. But as a whole, we'll put it perfectly. Effort, identity, those things were just lacking. Players lollygagging back. It was just a whole bunch of inconsistencies, and that's not what you want to see from a young team. Obviously, a young team is going to be hard to stay consistent, but it was awful, and I really do believe Stephen Silas, great guy. I think he could be a really good assistant coach, but he was not running that Rockets team correctly. Again, you can't be too stubborn. You have to change ways, and he was extremely stubborn. But on a positive note, I will say, we did understand, even when Şengün was the forefront of the offense, we saw it when KPJ got hurt in January. Şengün had an insane stretch. It was a 9-game stretch. I want to say he averaged 19, 12, and 7.
He was really good, man. Yeah.
Yeah, 65 true shooting percentage. And then like from there, I was like, oh yeah, we can run through him. We can run through him. There was a game where he put up like 30, 33, and like 16 and 6 against the Lakers. Like it was like, all right, yeah, this brother is like that. So I got that validation. Okay, we can run through Alfred Sengun. The Sengun hub is real. Jalen Green will put on the money. We saw improvements in the playmaking department, not all the way there, but he did improve as a playmaker. If you're watching those games, his reads from a game-to-game basis, I did see improve. I also saw improvements again, as Will mentioned, getting to the free throw line. He got there way more this past season. Got to I think he had 14 games with 10 free throws. So that's an improvement. So I was happy to see that with Jalen, and with more spacing, we'll talk about it later. But I think he'll be able to take a leap this upcoming season. I'll say this about Jabari coming in. He had a jumper. He was less than 31% on the year, and that's what his specialty was. So you're going to be like, okay, what's up with that? I mean, he's supposed to be knocking down shots. But for me, I'm high on his ceiling now because I saw an ability to create for himself towards the end of the season, and that was an improvement I did not expect from a 19-year-old Jabari Smith Jr. So I'm excited to see him grow on that, and we saw what happened in Summer League. So if he's getting to the line like that, able to create, then I'm excited for his upcoming season. And then I wanted to touch on two more players. I thought Tari Eason, a concern for him coming in was the jump shot. Was it going to be? I thought his shot was bad. It wasn't knockdown, but I liked it. It was serviceable. He's going to be able to knock those down. He's going to be able to improve on that. But that motor, that energy, that level of intensity he brings on both levels of the court, both sides of the court, is perfect. He's always going to make his impact on the game. They don't need to run plays for him. He's going to find the ball, and he's going to put it in the bucket. That's a guy that you want on every single team in the NBA. I see you over there, a room for Tari. What do you have to say about Tari? You like him?
Man, listen, man. Tari was one of my favorite players to watch. Like the effort that he would play, they wouldn't run no plays for him. He would out hustle everybody, defense, steals, blocks, like he just found ways to impact the game at every level, no matter what he shot. And like the attitude he brought on a night in basis to where it's like I'm locked in every single time I'm playing, no matter what the coach does. If he pulls me or whatever, I'm gonna play hard. Like you don't see that as much in many first year players at times, and he just fought that way for the entire season. And like he was the instant spark plug every time he came into the game. You could feel his impact in multiple games. And me as a Warriors fan, seeing how my bench was for the majority of the offseason, just seeing a guy like that come in and instantly just bring the energy up there. Like I really respect his game, and I think he's a great example of what like a utility role player who can do more can be if given the proper opportunity, for sure. So I'm a huge Tari Eason guy for sure.
Yeah. So Tari, I'm excited for his next year. Last thing I was going to say, KPJ had his best season last year, so that's good to see. I think they need to be running more catch and shoot through him. Only 1.9 attempts last year, and that's a disappointment to me because the year before he was in the 100th percentile and catch and shoot 3-point shooting at 48.2%. And this past year, they didn't really increase his volume, which doesn't make any sense to me. So, yeah, I think he improved. He's obviously not a primary ball handler. He needs to be a secondary, if anything, and just thrive off ball. That's where he is. But he's obviously very talented, and that's what I got from him last season. Obviously, the whole team had issues, again, lollygagging. I think Kevin did that as well, but it needs to be a team improvement. So as a whole, again, my expectations were not met. The identity, what I wanted to see, there was no identity whatsoever. It was an AU basketball team, which everybody else saw, and obviously that's not good. But there was a lot of
There was, I'll say this and we can move on. There's a play, I think it was it when he played Miami? It was a game that I was at, though I know that much. I cannot, I'll try to find it when I get done. But there's a play where, and I think it like perfectly encapsulates what watching the Houston Rockets under the Steven Silas regime for the last 3 seasons was like. It starts with like Jay. I think Jay's like in the left corner. He dribbles, gets nowhere. Passes to KPJ. KPJ dribbles, gets nowhere. Passes to Eric Gordon. He dribbles, gets nowhere. Forces up a bad shot, and like we're going back on defense, and like that's what it was. And like I'm not saying that I think it's easy to say, well, Jalen Green, KPJ, and Eric Gordon just suck, but like I don't think that's what it is. I think that they're just being used like incorrectly. Like I think that. That's just not. It doesn't matter who you have. That's not good offense, right? Where it's just one guy go down the court, dribble, try to make a bucket. And if he doesn't have it, just pass. Like that. I don't care if you got James Harden. That's not good offense. So, but that's what it was like. That's what it was like watching the Houston Rockets these last 2-3 years. And so obviously, man, I'm excited to like just be done with that nonsense and come into this Udoka regime.
Agree. Yeah.
So I think for me, y'all, coming in, watching how the season went for me, I agree with a lot of points. I think Will made the most important point. The accountability was extremely lacking for this Rockets team on a night in and night out basis. In my opinion, like the structure of what you wanted to build felt unclear. Players were not being used properly. And I'm sorry, respect to Silas, but the fact that a head coach is saying on a rebuilding team, this matchup just wasn't his matchup tonight. Like your goal should not be to develop and give these young players confidence, because pulling a younger player every time they make a mistake can alter their confidence, and that can, change how good they can be. You have to instill confidence in these players and say, hey, we might get blitzed, but I trust you to play. You're going to go out there. It might not look pretty, but we're going to figure this out together as a team. They didn't have that. And a lot of times it felt as if Silas wasn't confident in everything he wanted to do. And it felt like sometimes the team wasn't really receptive to what he was saying as you got deeper and deeper into the season as well. So to me, like bringing in Udoka, who led that Boston Celtics team, which yes, they struggled terribly in the first half, but the way that they closed out that season, Udoka stuck with it. He commanded the respect of that entire locker room, and they went to the NBA Finals. For the Rockets, your goal, now that you have drafted another phenomenal playmaker in Thompson, right? Year two Şengün, who can do a lot more. Like, he was one of my favorite players. And again, I'm trying to tell y'all, when I lay my eyes on Operation Şengün, right, the very first thing I said was, he's a Turkish MVP. No one's talking about that. And to me, like, I respect basketball at all levels. So seeing that he was coming in that young as the Turkish MVP, I thought, okay, he could be good. And then he got drafted to the Rockets, and I saw him play in Summer League. And I remember seeing multiple plays where, oh, he can pass really good. He can like explosively get to his spots at times, and he can run a two-man game with Jalen Green, who I didn't know Jalen Green could like have an off-ball game, but in that Summer League game, like I'm watching Jalen Green and just fitting in perfectly, right? So then I come into the season like, okay, this Rockets team can be very fun. And then Silas doesn't use any of these players the right way to maximize what they bring to the game. So to me, Udoka coming in is going to establish a regime to where people have to earn what they get, which I like a lot. But also, he's going to instill a structure to the team, right? Like every night, our identity has to be tied towards doing our jobs on the defensive end, keeping the offense simple, understanding we're trying to get to A so we can go to B. So for me, I'm very excited to watch Houston Rockets ball, and Jabari Smith, with his improvements that he made, maybe he's not just a spot up 3-point shooter. Maybe sometimes you can give him the ball, allow him to operate, and make sure that he's the captain of the defense. Because something I loved a lot about Jabari Smith was the way that he was so focused and such a dog on the defensive end. Like, to me, all of these wings and these athletes that the Rockets have, you want to convert your defense into your offense and outrun teams, space teams, and make sure that Şengün with the ball in his hands can play make and get everybody involved. So to me, the idea is there, and I believe Udoka can be the proper architect to actually make that happen. So for me personally, I'm excited to watch Houston Rockets basketball in 2024.
I'm excited. To be honest,
Yeah. But I'll take us over to the next thing here. So what I want to ask you guys is, in terms of the current build as it is now, right? How do you believe Amen Thompson blends with Alperen Şengün on the basketball floor? What type of actions or like activity do you want your offense to do when it comes down to those two players?
We go first. You got it, Brad.
I'll say this: Alperen Şengün and Amen Thompson. Obviously, you think of those two players, and you're like, okay, those are two guys who don't really shoot the basketball. So there's a concern there. Obviously, basketball now, modern NBA, you need at least 4 guys that can space the floor. So you're gonna have 2 guys out there who don't really shoot. So it's like, okay, what are they gonna do? But those two are probably coming in, 2 of the best 3 playmakers on the team, along with Fred VanVleet being that other guy. So when I see Alperen Şengün and Amin Thompson on the court together, I want them to be able to, one, Will and I talked about this a lot previously. Alperen Şengün is going to have to develop that three-pointer eventually. And I want to say this year is going to be the year that they're going to have him on an increased volume, because Şengün said at the beginning of the offseason he wants to take more threes. So I don't want them to play any differently when they have both of those guys out there. I want them to run it through Alperen Şengün, and it's only going to look better when you have an excellent playmaker like Amin, right next to him. I'm excited to see what they do with those two on the court. They can get extremely creative. Having two playmakers like that, get out in transition for sure would be my main thing. You have an extremely fast team, extremely young. They didn't tap into that transition offense last season. They were towards the bottom of the league in pace. I want to say last in pace, I think, for a young team. It doesn't make any sense to me. When you have a guy like Amin, get the ball up the floor extremely fast. Şengün can push the pace extremely fast as well. Two guys like that, I want them to run, and just take advantage of those things. And then the half-court offense, again, that's up to Ime Udoka to find out the best ways to utilize those two players. But I don't want them to be stuck in we have two guys who can't shoot, let's try to operate around that. No, I want to make sure there's space on the floor. Amin right now, the jumper is not going to be there, but Şengün at least showed flashes last year, 36% on catch and shoot threes. So I want them to try to at least space the floor with those two out there a little bit and see what you can do. But just, again, it's going to be excellent ball with being played. So I'm excited to see how creative Udoka can get.
I'm of the opinion that because on paper, I think if you were to just dumb it down completely, Şengün didn't really shoot the three ball well last year, although I think that's more a product of him speaking about him being misused. He was discouraged from shooting the ball last year, which is kind of crazy because I don't think he shot. I want to say he shot was it high 20s, low 30s, something like that. It wasn't nothing great, obviously, but it was how much?
33%.
How much on what volume? It's like 2 a game.
33%, yeah.
Volume was low. He shot 45% or 41% in 2023.
I gotta look that up now.
I got you, bro.
Yeah, because obviously, it was 33%. On if you round up to it, no, it was on 1 attempt. So it wasn't even 1 attempt. So yeah, what I was gonna say is part of the problem with Şengün is I think, I'm not saying he's a great shooter, but I think he's okay, especially for considering the fact that he's a 5. You're not expecting too much for them to be knockdown shooters anyways. But for a 5, I thought he was pretty solid at it when he would catch the ball and just shoot it. His problem was, and you could tell it's because someone was telling him, "Hey, don't shoot this ball." But he would catch it and be wide open, and then he'll do should I shoot? I shouldn't pass it. And
a lot of times, yeah. It's a fact.
Just catch it and shoot, because all the times where he would catch it and shoot it, the form looked good, and it was, he was making a decent amount of them. It was good, but like I said, you can see his volume literally went down. It went from 1.6 his rookie season to 0.8. It literally got cut in half, which is, like I said, crazy because I think that he was a good shooter. But my philosophy is, I think high IQ guys make it work, even if on paper the games may not necessarily complement each other the most, especially because there's not it's not like they play the same position, so it's not like we're gonna have that issue where it's they're both centers, and it's okay, how you make that work? It's a point guard and a 5, and both of them have really, really high IQ. Both of them are willing and capable passers, and Amin Thompson is really good at running the pick and roll, and Şengün is really good at setting screens and being the rolling big, or making those short roll passes. I think they're both guys who can be connective pieces, and so I think it's just really cool to have that dynamic that you have a really high IQ guy at your one position who can and will make any pass in the book, and then you got a 5 on your team who can do the same thing, who can and will make any pass in the book as well. So. And like I said, I think that their bread and butter is going to be the pick and roll. I think that's where they're going to be really, really lethal, because like I said, I think that Şengün is, I think in my opinion, one of the most, if not the most underrated screen setter in the league. I think he set some really, really tough, firm screens. And that's the kind of guy that you need next to a guy like Amin Thompson, who, his main attack is going to be attacking the basket, getting downhill. So I just envision Şengün setting some really hard screens for Amin attacking that downhill, putting some more pressure on the rim. If you commit to Amin, that's a dish to Şengün. Now Şengün has either the shot himself, or maybe there's a shooter open, or there's somebody cutting that he can hit. Şengün can make the decision from there, or you can commit to Şengün, and now you're going to get postered by Amin. Like I think that dynamic right there, I think that's going to be their bread and butter next season.
Yeah, for me, I asked you guys that question because I think a lot of people from a surface level just to see two guys who don't really shoot the ball, how does that work? But if you're involving both of them in the pick and roll and they have a spread floor, two guys can play make at a high level, throw passes. They're intelligent basketball players, and we all know how athletic Amin Thompson is. And Şengün is a sneaky athletic. Like, he has some of the weirdest poster dunks that you just don't expect to be a poster dunk, and then he actually, dunks the ball. So to me, that fit makes sense. My question for the season for the Rockets is, to me, Udoka is going to have his hands full from the perspective that you just added Van Fleet and Brooks on this team, and the blend between trying to develop players and playing veteran players and making sure that each player gets like the proper amount of tick. That's going to be the question, because Udoka has always been a veteran, player type of guy, and like, you really have to earn his trust. I'm hoping that doesn't ruin the development of the other players, because again, like, the blueprint is there. I think Şengün should be the main offensive piece, and you plug in Amin Thompson and Green around that, because again, he can pass and those guys can get downhill and convert. But the problem with that is Şengün's defense, which needs to improve. Udoka is a defensive guy first, which makes me question, okay, is he looking at Şengün to be a huge piece or not because of the defense? I don't know.
One thing I want to add to that too, I know, like I said, people on paper, I know that some people who didn't want Amin Thompson last season or this summer was because, like, okay, how does he fit with Şengün, right? They're two guys who can't shoot. But one thing I think people weren't like realizing too about Amin Thompson is, like, Şengün, I'm not gonna try to like sugarcoat it and say he was good defensively. He had his moments where he looked okay, and he had moments where he looked really bad. Like, those are two true statements as far as Şengün's defense last year. But to be fair to him, one, he said he's grew this offseason, so I think that's gonna make a bit of a difference. He was used incorrectly defensively last year, so there's also that. And then three, like, and I think this is the most important point I was gonna make, is he was playing with, like, I'm not trying to act like he was good defensively, but he was playing with a bunch of guys who were either poor defenders or did not care about defense, right?
That's a fact. Yeah.
I love Kevin Porter Jr. and Jalen Green, especially KPJ. Like, I think KPJ can be a solid defender. The problem was those two guys just did not care. And I mean, to be fair to them, why would you? When your coach is letting you go out there and do whatever you want, like, why would I care about defense? I'm gonna play 30 minutes a night. If I play defense, if I don't, I'm gonna play regardless. So, but those guys did not care defensively at all last year, right? Eric Gordon was a starting small forward for 40 games a season, something like that, some in that ballpark. I have never seen an NBA player in my life like give less of a crap about a team than Eric Gordon did. Eric Gordon did not want to be here from game one, so like, he was not out there trying at all. And you have guys like Lord have mercy, Dacian Nix, Garrison Matthews, like other guys out there who were getting heavy rotation minutes for us last year, who just are either just downright bad defenders, or, like I said, we're not even, like, the only guys I could say even from game 1 to game 82 tried all year was Jabari and Tari. I think those are the two that I can say with complete confidence it tried from start to finish. Everybody else, it was fluctuating. This year, it's obviously, we're probably gonna talk about Dylan Brooks and Fred VanVleet being brought in, but one of the good things about Amin Thompson's, like, on his scouting report, that's one of the things he's good at. He's a good defender.
He plays defense. Yes, sir.
He takes pride on that side of the ball. And so obviously, like, you don't want to have two non-spaces on the floor. That's a separate conversation. But in terms of the type of, like, roster that would, I think, maximize Şengün and maybe him being, not the world's not best defender, having a point guard who can go out there and clamp up not just ones, twos, but also threes and maybe even some forwards, right? Like, he's 6'7". He can guard a lot of different positions and a lot of different, guys out there in the NBA. I think just having somebody out there is going to, by proxy, help Şengün, because now to have him rotate over it, have as much to, protect the rim at the last second, because, Amin Thompson is containing that. And so, like, I think that's one of the underrated aspects of how Amin Thompson is going to do a lot of favors for Şengün next year.
I'm excited for those two. Like I said, Will put it perfectly in that sense. From the defensive standpoint, it wasn't just the players, again, the coaches. There was no accountability, as we mentioned. And now you got this new coaching staff. Everyone's going to be dead serious about defense. Again, Udoka brought the Celtics from the 13th best defense to the best defense in the NBA. So just having that mentality and having guys around him that are going to be feeding off of that mentality is only going to help a guy like Alfred Sengun. In my opinion, and everybody that's going to be in the rotation, I think anybody out there could be a plus defender, with the exception with Alfred Sengun. I don't think he'll ever be a great defender, but anybody else out there, I think Jalen Green, I just think he just lacks weight. I think he's gaining muscle. He's up to 195. Everybody else, KPJ, 6'6", 6'9" wingspan. I think he can be a serviceable, really good defender. Anybody else on there, Ross? You can go top to bottom from the 9 people they're supposed to have out there. They're going to be good defenders. So I think Sengun is going to be straight, especially with a guy like Alvin Thompson, as Will said. Well, I think he's going to be probably switching 1 through 5. That's how they like to play that guy. So
the play he got hurt in summer league was because he switched and blocked the 5. That's how he got hurt. He went up and blocked the 5.
Right.
Came down on his ankle. So like I said, I'm not gonna sit here and act like he's gonna be out there like stopping. For Lord knows not Joel Embiid but like it probably struggle against like a guy like Steven Adams too, right? Like I'm not gonna act like he's going to be out there just clamping up every position. But I think that he will be able to like in like let's say all else fails, you get switched. I think Alvin Thompson, like not obviously not in his rookie season, but like as he develops, I think he'll be able to hold his own, as good as anyone can at that point in time, defensively against big. So yeah, like I said, that's a great addition to your team.
Yeah. For me, I would agree with this standpoint. I guess my only thing is like I'm hoping Udoka isn't so focused on the defense that he thinks to not play Sengun. But you made some valuable points because again, the way Sengun's being used as a defender matters. Having more defensive pieces around you who can actually play defense. Van Fleet was a pretty good passing lanes, on ball PG guy who could guard. That works pretty well. Brooks plays a lot of hard defense. Jabari Smith, multiple moments last year, he was the captain of your defense and showed the effort. So to me, like making those pieces fit is obviously his job, but I do think he has the personnel to be able to maximize the best look of what the Rockets can be. And I love what you said because Amin Thompson to me is a sign of where the future of the NBA is, right? Like the league is going towards versatility at every spot. That means like your point guard, your 5, whoever has the capability to be switched onto bigger or smaller players, play defense, shoot, pass, play, make, defend, like being able to do everything at every position matters. So again, having a 6'7" guard who teams can't hunt at all on the defensive end, it bends the entire court.
I think that one of the issues I had with the draft discourse this year, because Amin Thompson, that was the guy we were mocked to get from the one we got picked for. And I mean, I can speak for me and Brad, like we were kind of all in on that from the jump, right? Like I was from day one, I was like, yeah, like I'm obviously rather have Wimby, rather have Scoot, but try out on those 2 guys. Amin Thompson is a really good like backup to your plan, right? Like I am all in on Amin Thompson, and I got a lot of pushback, and one of the reasons was because he has the struggling jump shot, which is a valid criticism of his game. I think what that did is people spent so much time talking about that one thing that he's not good at. They
don't talk about all the other stuff he can do.
He
right?
does everything else really well. Like everything
Exactly.
else in the game of basketball, he's already like solid to pretty good at art. He's already a good defender. For his like expectation, I don't think he's gonna be out there clamping in year 1. But like for a rookie, he's already a really good defender. He can rebound the ball. He can obviously, we all talk about his IQ and what he brings to the table as a point guard, as a playmaker. So he can make every pass in the book. The guy is also just like high IQ in general. Like he just makes winning plays. I don't know too many point guards who are out there setting screens. I don't know, what I'm saying? I don't know too many point guards who are jumping for loose balls. You know what I'm saying? Like he just makes winning basketball plays. And so when you look at like the game of basketball, what outside of not being the world's best shooter, what does Amin Thompson project to not be good at? Because I think that's it. And like for me, I'll teach a man how to shoot. Like if that's the only flaw in you, I'll lock you in the gym. I will keep you in there night in, night out until you can make a certain amount of jumpers and you can leave. Like I will teach you how to shoot. I cannot teach you how to to read the court the way he does. I cannot teach you to be 6'7" and be one of the best athletes in the NBA from day one. I can't teach you how to be able to switch, monthly 1 through 3, maybe even some 4s, some 5s, right? Like that stuff can't be taught no matter how hard you try. So if that's the only flaw in your game is I have to just teach you how to shoot, like, bro, I'll go hire a shooting coach, which we did this all season, and I'm going to lock you in the gym with him, and you're not leaving until you can shoot. You know what I'm saying? So like I'm like I said, I'm all in on Ahmed. I think he's going to be fine.
And that's one thing.
You go ahead, break.
Yeah, I thought Will made a good point. He said, you got to lock him in the gym. And that's one thing about Ahmed Thompson. You don't even need to lock him in the gym because he
does it already.
I was gonna say that too, right? Like he is so focused on basketball and he generally wants to get better, because at his first press conference, I'm pretty sure he talked about linking up with the new Rockets coach and getting in the gym and practicing. Like, he generally wants to be great, and he's already great at every other aspect, beyond the shooting chops. So like having a guy like that at that size with that mindset fits into creating a structure of basketball that you guys want to play.
Yeah. Did you want to say something, Brett?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I love having a guy like that with insane work ethic. Again, he's like programmed to always say the right things and always do the right thing. That's what I've like, both for the Thompson twins, that's what it seems like. It's impossible to hate both of those guys. They just seem extremely, of course, talented and very, just focused on their craft. So again, that jumper, and I thought Will was exactly right when it comes to projections. What does he project to not be good at? As of right now, it's just a jump shot, and that work ethic that he has, I'm enticed to believe he'll at least get that jumper to 34% one of these days, and I'll be cool with that because that downhill speed,
that's fine,
and all the abilities that he has is enough to be a 34% shooter. You see, De'Aaron Fox is around that right now, and look at the season he did that. So, yeah.
I'll say this one last thing, and I'll stop talking about it because Ahmed Thompson's probably my favorite player on the Rockets next season.
Right? Okay.
But I'll say this one last thing. I think you said it, Gifted. Like him and his brother, you don't have to lock them in the gym. Like that's all they do. All they do is, even when they're not hooping. I think it was funny they talk about they're playing 2K. Like all they do is basketball.
Right.
And, there's this really interesting clip. I don't know if you've seen it, where somebody was interviewing him before the draft. And they were asking him, could you which player was drafted higher? It was like, who's higher, Paul George or Gordon Hayward?
And he knew every single question.
He knew all of them. All of them. You know what I'm saying?
Every single one, yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna call nobody else out, but like there are plenty guys in the NBA today who cannot do that. But like here, this guy is like, he got them. He was getting them all right, like it was nothing. It was like,
I love the Brandon Miller shots, by the way.
Hey,
I love that.
I wasn't gonna say no names. I wasn't gonna say no names, but yeah, that's definitely what I was talking. You know what I'm saying? But like, that's not normal. And then I know that a lot of people say, well, like, what about the Russell Westbrooks and the I don't know, the other guys, like the other like super duper athletic guards who never really developed a jump shot. One, like if Ahmed Thompson's Russell Westbrook, that was the right pick, obviously. So like that's one. But I think the biggest difference between a Russell Westbrook and this new generation of guards like the Ahmed Thompsons is Russ grew up in an era that was not dominated by the 3-point line. Like, not saying that it wasn't important, but there was a clear shift in the importance of being able to shoot threes from like 2014, 2015 on to where we are right now. That, like I said, Russ was drafted in 2000, was it 8? Was he was drafted? I think it was like the 4th pick in 2008, something like that. Yeah, because he was after KD. So yeah, it was like that was almost 2 decades ago now, right? Where it was a different game. And Ahmed Thompson has grown up in the era where you have the Dames, the Stephs, the Kyries, the point guards that shoot the ball really well. And he's watched Russell Westbrook not been, like I said, I know because he's typed into every basketball game anyways. He's watched Russell Westbrook struggle in the postseason because of his jump shot. And like I know that he knows the biggest thing that's gonna keep me off the court is my jump shot. That I know he knows that. So combine the fact that he's well aware that that's the area he has to improve in the most, and this guy is already, like I said, one of, if not the hardest worker on our team. Like I'm so confident he's gonna be fine. Like it's not, I'm not concerned even remotely.
Yeah, I want to say this thing before we transition to your thoughts on how you guys did in your 2023 offseason with the trades and all that stuff. The thing that intrigues me the most, again, though, is size and skill as a blend at almost every position, to me, is where the league is going. And you guys have a 5 who got bigger, can pass, still has to like turn into a neutral defender, sure, but outside of that, he can pretty much impact the game at almost every other level. You have Amin Thompson, who we just, talked about in terms of his defense, his passing, his will to like set screens and do like the small things. And then you have, a 6'10", 6'11" guy himself in Jabari Smith, who can play defense and space out the floor. Like, you have the blueprint of a Udoka team that their identity is defense, passing, playmaking, and running. And this, to me, seems like the real identity you wanted this team to have last season. So now, like, this upcoming season could be the year you guys wanted last season. But I now want to ask you guys about your ads. Van Fleet got paid a lot of money, but a lot of people don't understand with the new CBA, you have to reach the floor before the season starts. Beforehand, you could wait until in season and then reach it, but now it's before training camp starts, you have to reach it. So they overpay some guys, fine, but you're in a position where all you care about right now is currently developing, having vets on that team to help lead by example on it and off the court. And Van Fleet fills that role. Now, Dylan Brooks, I'm not gonna lie to you, for me, I'm not a hater. I lied. I am a hater. But for me, for Dylan Brooks, I really pray that he's willing to buy into a role and is not the offensive negative that he was, because I think he's a very good defender. Like, he shows really good chops there, but sometimes his IQ and his shot choices in Memphis, they were okay because he played defense. I'm hoping Udoka says, we see you buying in on defense, but that does not excuse you taking the ball out of X or Y players' hands. I just want to see, how do you guys feel about those two guys and how they fit on your basketball team?
Yeah, well,
I actually think you should go first, because I'm gonna probably disagree with you a little bit. So I think you probably should go before me.
all right. Well, I'll start with the Dylan Brooks signing. When it comes to Dylan, this was a guy I did not want on the Houston Rockets to start. And then I really did a deep dive on him, and I saw the impact defender that he was. Obviously, we all know he was an impact defender, but to the level that a Houston Rockets team desperately needed, I saw the vision when they were initially interested in him. You have a lot of guys on this Rockets team like Jabari, Tari, who can feed off of the energy from Dylan Brooks. And the more I started to look into that, the more I started to realize that, shout out to Basketball Index, really good stat engine. It shows that Dylan Brooks is 100th percentile in perimeter defense, 100th percentile in matchup difficulty, 100th percentile chasing people off of screens. Just doing little things like that. He's going to be all up under your skin. He's going to annoy the other team's best player. And that's something that's going to be a positive regardless of what happens on the offensive end. And you can go to the numbers. He's a positive plus minus wise on the court every single year that he's been in Memphis. But it's concerning when you got guys saying, I want to have a big role. I don't want to be that 4th, 5th guy. So we'll see what happens in that regard. That's worried me. I'm not gonna lie. But again, this is a guy who wanted to potentially go to Dallas. They offered the MLE. The Rockets felt like that was their competition. They needed to just go up in value to make sure they get the guy that they want. Again, they had to reach their floor. As of right now, they spent enough to get $7 million over their cap. So they did what they were supposed to do, and they did what they had to do to get their guys. And as a whole, if you look at their cap space, they're set up to the point where when Jalen Green and Alperen Sengun are due for extensions, they're going to be able to get those guys. They're going to have around $78 million. That's if they keep Fred Van Fleet. If they get rid of Fred Van Fleet's team option, they're going to have upwards of $110 million to spend.
And real quick, that's a great point you made, by the way. Van Fleet's contract to me became significantly better once I found out it was a team option in that last year. It's not a player option, it's a team option. That is good management. I just want to, say that real quick.
Yeah, and you're 100% right, because if anybody was in those Twitter spaces that Will and I were the day of the free agency and they found out that Fred Van Fleet was on a 3-year max, boy.
Yeah.
Everybody was going through it. Meltdowns across the board. So when we saw that team option come out, again, that's an A+ contract in my opinion. You get a guy like Fred Van Fleet to come in. And yeah, it seems like a lot of money. It is a lot of money, a max for Fred Van Fleet. But when you really look at the structure of the Rockets contracts and what they're trying to do in the future, it really doesn't hurt them. It really doesn't help them, especially that third year, if they even do want to keep Fred VanVleet. My only issue with Fred VanVleet on the third year was, okay, what are we doing with Amon Thompson? He can't be stuck on the bench for 3 years. That was my thing. Money-wise, I looked at the roster. I looked at, top to bottom, what they could do. And again, as I mentioned, I like it. I like their construction. Dylan Brooks, that 4-year, $86 million contract can be 4 years, $90 million if they make the playoffs every year. So this is a lot of money for Dylan Brooks. But I'm telling you right now, I'll be the happiest man alive if Dylan Brooks messes around and gets 4 years, $90 million. Because that's he came in, these guys came in, they did their jobs. They made the playoffs every year that Dylan Brooks was there. So I'm hoping that's what happens. I'm not mad at the contracts. Again, they had to spend money. They had to reach 90%. You've been a team that won 17 games, 20 games, 22 games. You got to lure in guys some way. And it's going to be the money and the coaches and the vision. And they got their guys. So we'll see what happens. I'll grade the Dylan Brooks signing more based on his play and based on how they can execute or based on how they can utilize him on offense. Because I don't want to see him be in the second option, the third option. I want him being the fourth or fifth option. So I'll have to see how they use.
Okay, that's fair.
With my opinion on it, I wasn't the biggest fan of either signing. There's a tweet out there that you can go search that I think I said it in I think that's when I tweeted it. So well before the season had ended, well before free agency started. I tweeted if the Rockets throw bags at Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks, I'm gonna recess my faith in the organization. And that's literally what they did 2 months later. So I wasn't the biggest fan of either of those players last season. I definitely didn't like the idea of giving them super duper large contracts. I'll start with the Fred VanVleet one. I think that, like you said, Gifted, it goes from, to me, a terrible contract to, it's okay, it's not that bad. When you talk about it being a team option in the third year, that was the biggest thing for me, was if you're gonna, because I understand why this team wanted Fred. I get it. You wanted to get a experienced veteran point guard. You probably got, for what Udoka wants to run, you probably got the best guy on the market that's going to be able to do that thing next year. So I get it. You want to make sure you got that guy by any means necessary. Even that's not what I would have did if I was in charge, but that's a separate conversation. And so the fact they were able to get him, and then it was I like the fact that it's just 2 years of committed money, right? He can come in, be that bridge point guard for Amon Thompson, be that mentor, be that veteran leader in the locker room, and then in 2 years we can just cut bait with him entirely if we so choose to. Or who knows, maybe he's really freaking good and you want to keep him and you have the option to do so, right? So I'm not the world's biggest fan of it, but like I said, I get it, I understand, and I don't I'm okay with it because it is just that 2+1. All right, that makes sense. He's going to make us a better team next year without a doubt. So that's that. The Dylan Brooks contract, it's a little bit different. I'm still not a fan.
I feel you, bro. I feel you on that.
Not a huge fan. It's mainly because it's the amount of years. It's the same problem with the Fred VanVleet contract before it was a 2+1. If the contract was 3 years of Fred VanVleet, I was I think that's a terrible decision. That was bad. But now that it's 2+1, all right, I'm cool with it. But you've locked yourself into 4 years of guaranteed money to Dylan Brooks, who's a player that did not have the world's biggest market this offseason. He just got kicked off of a playoff team, a team that with the third seed, was that what they were? Second seed last year? Second seed, got booted off the second seed last year. They said you cannot come back. And I'm not gonna say it's because he was running his mouth, but they were. Matter of fact, I'm so glad we're talking to a Warriors fan right now. It just hit my mind. We were so happy when Dylan Brooks was playing against y'all 2 years ago in the playoffs, because you're this guy is costing them the series right now. He legitimately, I'm not saying that the Grizzlies would have won, but I think they would have won more games. That was was a 4-2 series, and that what it went to?
Well, I literally sat there in game 6, and I'm just seeing him just take pull-up 3 after pull-up 3, unprompted, just shooting his team out the series. Listen, I was terrified when he got hurt, because I'm oh shit, they about to play they about to play Zaire, and that's why I'm please don't play Zaire, because that's how much of a negative he was offensively. I'm gonna give him some credit though, right? Maybe his situation changed, because again, he's playing with a new head coach. He's in a completely different environment. He's gotten paid. Maybe he buys in. Like, I'm sorry. I want him to have success. I do. But hearing him say he wants a bigger offensive role on a team that just drafted Amin Thompson, you have Shingu, you have Jalen Green. At any point, at the best, he's like a fourth option, right? Like, I just don't see that really working out, but I hope it does. Because again, like, I think the team option was a great point. But like you said, 4 years of his contract. Granted, it'll be tradable because every year the cap goes up, so fine. But as a player, you just hope that he does everything you want him to do on the defensive end and makes solid enough decisions in the half court. So yeah, I feel that well.
I'm glad I'm talking to a Warriors fan, because I remember I was like sitting where I'm sitting right now in front of my laptop watching that series. I like I was rooting for y'all to lose the whole time. So
I know.
I'm pissed. I'm like, bro, if you stop shooting, y'all are gonna win this game. And like the Warriors are one more game closer to going home. And he kept shooting. He was taking like these off balance like first 6 seconds of the shot clock threes. It's just like it was bad. And like I said, I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, if they just bench him, they're gonna win this game. And so he didn't do it as egregiously last year with the Lakers, but there were times where same thing last year where it was like, yeah, man, if this guy kind of reined it back in, they'd have a better chance of winning tonight.
Him and 9 3-pointers against the Lakers, bro, in one of them games.
Yeah, it was great. And so like that's why I wasn't the biggest fan of Dillon Brooks these last couple seasons. I'm like, man, he's costing his team games, and like in the biggest stage, like when it matters the most, he's costing his team wins. And so yeah, like I just wasn't the biggest fan of that. I wasn't the biggest fan of signing him at all, right? I wouldn't have gave him anything if it was up to me. But okay, you think, because like let's be fair to Dillon Brooks. Like Brad said, he is one of the game's best defenders. Like that cannot.
Yes, he is.
He's amazing defensively, right? And if you're able to find a way to keep what he's good at defensively and then rein him back in offensively, there's a really good player there. Like I will be fair to like that. That's a really good basketball player who can be that good defensively and, like I said, play a little bit more of a role on the offensive instead of trying to be like the guy on offense. Like that's a really good player. And so, and if there's any coach in the NBA who probably can do it, it probably would be like Udoka or like Popovich or something. Like those are probably the guys who could possibly, get that out of him. But the problem for me is that's still a gamble, right? Like there's no guarantee, as good as we all think Udoka is, that he's able to just completely decondition Dillon Brooks from what he is. And like I said, it's not even just decondition. Like the guy has said, even in the midst of him being kicked off of a team, he's saying, I want a larger role. And he said that on a team that had 2 All-Stars, right? So like if he's and not even just 2 All-Stars, I think Desmond Bane is like a borderline All-Star. Like I think he's a really good basketball player. So like those are 3 really solid guys. And despite that, he's like, nah, man, I want more shots. Well, I just don't imagine he's going to come to the Houston Rockets with lesser talent and be like, all right, it's time for me to now start playing a role. Like I didn't play one for John Morant, but I'm gonna play one for Jalen. Like that. I don't know how much I buy that, but like I said, there's a different like coaching difference between Taylor Jenkins and Udoka in terms of like it's relating to the players and getting the buy-in. So Udoka thinks he can do it. That's fine. I'm okay with it, but just don't give him 4 years of guaranteed money. Like if you want to do that, do the same thing with Fred, where you overpay him for like 2 years, give him a player option. A team option on the 3rd year, and then like that way, if it's a little, because I think it's an experiment. If the experiment goes south, well, worst case scenario, you're just stuck paying them for another year, right? And that's an expiring salary in one season. You can maybe move that. Not that big of a deal, but I mean it's 4 years, and like. To be fair to Stone, right? Like that's the cap jumping $20 million a year is not going to be like stupid high, but I mean that's a contract that you might have to move off of one day, and who knows if you'll be able to even just get neutral value. You might have to like give up something to get rid of that. Who knows? So I don't know. I think it was just like it was a weird gamble to make for a player that hasn't really shown any reason for us to be like bending backwards to sign him. But like I said, if Udoka is this guy who's able to extract what's good of Dillon Brooks and get rid of what's bad, I mean, obviously he'd be worth more than what we paid him this offseason. So there's a pretty good chance it works out. There's also a chance where it doesn't. And I just think that the organization should have given themselves more protection against the reality where it doesn't work out well. And we didn't really do that. So that's just how I feel about it.
Hey, I appreciate y'all perspectives on the players that you signed. Again, I'm with you on the Brooks thing. I'll just be fair and say wait and see, because we've seen it. Like, there have been players that go from team to team that are just different players for said team. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and wait, even though like the comments and like the eye test play, I'm not too high on. I do want to ask, there are two things from your offseason that we have not gotten to yet. And the first one is an L. And I'm sorry to say this, all right? To every Rockets fan who's watching this, y'all got dealt bad. I'm sorry about that. The Brook Lopez thing is like, it's just so tough to see that like he committed to the team and then walked away from it, and y'all gave up assets for basically like nothing, because you moved those assets to create room for Brook, and then he doesn't sign. How does that make y'all feel? Like,
it was frustrating. Of course, it was frustrating because they had this master plan coming in, and it seems like all the chips were falling in the right place. They had, like, as you want to say, maybe shaking deals beforehand, so they're moving all these players, getting everything in order. That's why you see guys like Ty Washington, Usman Garuba get moved for negative value. For the purpose of Brook Lopez signing with Houston, but then Brook Lopez got his offer from Houston and told Milwaukee, "Hey, this is what Houston's giving me. What y'all got?" And then he jetted the second he did. So it's frustrating that happened. There were some alternatives out there that weren't bad. I'm okay with the Jock Landale signing. 4 years, $32 million, only one of those years being guaranteed. But the most annoying part about that, Gifted, is they still followed through with the deal that they had with the Atlanta Hawks in trading Ty Washington and Usman Garuba for seconds. And that's 2 first-round picks in the past, 2 years that you're just getting rid of for nothing. And I just can't get with that, especially if the Brook Lopez deal had fallen apart. Get out of that deal with the Hawks. They wanted to say, hey, we want to keep our good graces with the Atlanta Hawks. We had this deal already. We're just going to stick with it. Don't do that. Don't do that. Do something else. And that's the biggest L for the Houston Rockets. Could be one of the biggest L's they've had throughout this entire rebuild, getting rid of 2 first-round picks.
It's the biggest. Yeah,
so it's extremely frustrating. I'm okay with the outcome of the entire offseason, but that aspect of it, it's a hard pill to swallow for sure. What do you say, Will?
I was hated, and what made this crazy too is this all happened like consecutively. It was
back to back, yeah.
It was like you gave, and at this point I didn't know that it was a team option, so I just see 3 years was like 130, something like that. Wait, that doesn't even sound. Was it 130 or 140?
I think it was 146. I think.
What was it, man? I'm gonna look it up so I can stay accurate.
Yeah.
It was okay. No, it was 3 years, 130. Okay, so it wasn't 140. It was 3 years, 130.
Oh, okay.
Saw that notification come across my screen, and like I said, this one time I didn't know that it was a team option. So pissed about that. They signed Dylan Brooks, which I did not want to do at all. Now I'm pissed about that. And then it's like, okay, well now you've traded away everybody. Like, obviously, like you knew as a Rockets fan, like we knew that KJ Martin's time was up. We knew that Ty Washington and Usman Garuba, like, if they were able to stay by, they weren't going to play next season anyways. Like, we knew that a lot of these guys were going to be on different teams next year. Like, same thing with Josh Christopher. Like, that was a guy who a lot of us kind of, like, as much as we loved him, we kind of knew, like, yeah, y'all might have played y'all's last game as a Houston Rocket. So it wasn't the idea that we let them go that pissed me off. It's that we let them go, and then we didn't get anything. And I didn't just let them go. We paid to get rid of them and got nothing back. And, like, it's supposed to be Brook Lopez, but like he didn't come. So now you've just paid this price to dump guys who, a year or 2 years ago, you just drafted in the first round. You just paid to get rid of them, and then did nothing with the cap space that you just traded by getting rid of them. And then part of probably what, like, because I don't know about y'all, but I just find it really, really difficult to believe that Ty Washington, who was first round pick last year, and he was a lottery guy prior to his injury, like I find it really, really hard to believe his value was so bad that you have to give up assets to get rid of him. But like, even if you believe that, right? Because like I said, I don't know how much I believe that, but even if you believe that Ty Washington's value after not even playing a full season in the NBA, because he didn't really play for us last year, like that's all it took, and now he's making like like $3 million a year. That $3 million a year is not considered a negative asset somehow. I don't get it, but okay, that's what y'all telling me. Why is he a negative asset? Because he wasn't when we drafted him. It's because you didn't play him, and then you played a guy like Daishen Nix over him, and you just cut Daishen Nix. So what did we gain from that last season? What did we gain from playing Daishen Nix over your first round pick, who you cut Daishen Nix, and then you traded Ty away along with other assets to get nothing in return? Like, I don't know, it's just bad management. And I know people are like, well, it's not that big of a deal because all you lost was some second round picks. And like, yeah, in the grand scheme of things, like the rebuild isn't screwed because we traded away second round picks to get rid of Ty Washington, right? Like that's not going to end the franchise. Right? But that
was never your point, though. Your point is, okay, sure, that's true, but we also lost these assets for basically nothing, and that's never good in business. You never want to lose any asset for absolutely nothing, right?
And like anybody at home who's like second round picks are worth nothing. Like, look at what the Lakers paid to get Rui Hachimura at the deadline, and that was what, like
that was highway robbery.
Yeah, like that was one of their best players for the Lakers last season. Like he made a huge difference on them, especially come playoff time. And like those are like the moves around the margins that you can make. 4 years on the line, we're trying to win basketball games where it's like, hey man, it'd be really cool if we had some second round picks to throw at a guy like a Rui Hachimura who can come in and like bolster our playoff roster, right? Like that's important. So like obviously we're not screwed because we traded away second round picks, but like you just never want to, like I said, it's bad business. You know what I'm saying? And like stuff like that can one day bite you in the butt. And so it's like, I don't know, like I was even above everything else, that's what pisses me the most off this offseason is that like I'm already over, like the Fairman B stuff don't even bother me no more. Now it's a team option. And then the Dylan Brooks thing, like I can see a silver lining in that. So like I'm obviously not happy with it, and I would undo it if I could, but it's here, you can't do nothing about it. The Ty Washington, Usman Garuba, Josh Christopher, like the way in which we let those guys go for nothing and like we paid to get rid of them, that just does not sit well with me, and I don't think it ever will.
And like to add on to this, and this is a perfect segue before we end the show too. I'm surprised that we've gone an hour and 7 minutes in this podcast and we have not talked about Cam Whitmore like at all. Like this guy was a guy that like Stone said that he was eyeing at 4 and he fell all the way to 20. I'm praying Cam Whitmore does not get buried in this rotation to the point where he doesn't get any minutes his rookie year. What are your thoughts on like him finding a name for himself on this team?
I'll say this. When it comes to Cam, again, extremely talented. He's obviously a guy who deserves rotation minutes, but it's going to be down to him and Jay Shante. And even then, Will and I have been talking about this. You can go top to bottom on this Rockets roster. And again, you're going to have the starting five is obviously going to be Fred VanVleet, Jalen Green. You got Jabari Smith Jr., Dylan Brooks, and Alpha Sengun. Off the bench, of course, you're going to have Amin Thompson, KPJ, Tari Eason, and then probably Jocko Landau or Jeff Green, whoever they want to play. So that there's an extra spot right there, the backup 3 position. But all the guys I just named, a bunch of those guys are going to be 20 plus minutes off the bench. Definitely 20. You're going to get 20 plus minutes from KPJ, definitely Tari Eason, and you want Amin Thompson if you get 20 minutes. So if you assume the starters are getting around 28, 30 minutes too, there's not really a lot of minutes for that last guy, whether it's Jayshawn Tate or Cam Whitmore. So I don't even know if he's going to play. I'm sure Will was going to touch on that. But for Cam to get in, he obviously has to beat out Jayshawn Tate. And the way he does that is, of course, extremely talented guy, but he's going to have to do little things. He's going to have to be a really good defender. He's going to have to be a good connective piece. Again, it's the guy who had 19 assists in 26 games at Villanova this past season. That's not going to cut it, but I did like the way he was passing the rock after the first preseason game. He didn't look as tunnel vision as he did against the Bureau Blazers in night 1 of the Summer League. But Cam, he's going to have to cut off ball, be a really good cutter. I think he's a great fit with Alperen Sengun. Cut off ball, hit those catch and shoot threes, and be a menace defensively, and just run out in transition. That's what he specialized in. He can run in transition, explosive dunker, and really good at grabbing steals, as we saw. One of the leaders in the Summer League at grabbing steals. So, in my opinion, if he wants to come out there and play day one, he's got to play really, really good defense, do a lot of the little things, and make himself an off-ball threat, whether that's from the three-point line or it's cutting to the basket. But that's the way he can get in from day one.
For me, like, I would love for Cam to play from game one, but I encourage people who are like, nah, Cam has to play. Like, go to like, I literally loaded up 2K and did it myself, but there's like online rotation builder, like you can do it. Go make a rotation and try to find a way for Cam to get minutes, because it's kind of not possible, right? You know that Jalen Green and Fred VanVleet are probably going to be the two highest guys in minutes per game for us next season. So they're not. I seriously don't see a world where they're playing less than 32 a night. Like, I think they're going to get 32 minimum, probably a little bit more than that, but like for sure 32. Shingles in the guy getting probably about another 28, 30 minutes. Indigo Jabbar another 28, 30 there. Dylan Brooks another 28, 30 there. That's your starting five. Then off the bench you got KPJ and Tari Eason, who were some of our best players. Like, as a matter of fact, depending on who you ask, like, that was probably like our second, maybe fourth best player last season was KPJ and Tari Eason. So
Tari gonna play a whole lot because he plays hellacious defense effort. He's a Udoka guy, so he's gonna play high minutes for sure.
He's gonna play, you know what I'm saying? So like, he's gonna get another 20, 25, something KPJ, another 20, 25 from KPJ. Ahmed Thompson, he's the backup point guard, so he's gonna get another 20, maybe hopefully 25. I don't know if he can get that much, but he's probably gonna get another 20 minutes. And then I think the five is where it gets kind of like, I think that's the way you find a way to fit Cam in, is if you say we're gonna not play Jock Landale at all, no Jeff Green, no Jock Landale, and just play Jabari as the backup five, like, and kind of like stagger him and Şengün. I think that way you could say, okay, well now Cam can play. But I mean, I don't know about y'all. I don't know how much I like that. I don't
think that's gonna happen, to be honest with you. I
don't know how much I like that. I'm okay. Like, I actually, it's funny. My favorite sign this offseason was Jock Landale. I thought that was a pretty solid pickup for us. So, like, I'm perfectly fine with him being the backup five. So when
he outplayed DeAndre Ayton in the playoff series, I would definitely play him. I mean,
that's what I'm jumping. Like, he was really good for the Suns in the playoffs this year. So, it just like, go do it. Go build the rotation. Give the guys that you want to play. Because like, I know a lot of fans are not going to be happy if Jalen's playing 25 minutes a night. Like, he's going to have to get his 30, 32, you know what I'm saying, at the lowest. So I just don't see where those minutes come from. I don't know how you squeeze Cam in. But like, it's not a bad thing. I don't know if it's like the worst thing in the world, right? Like, one, he wasn't your first pick in this year's draft. He's not like, Ahmed Thompson's going to get the play. So that's a plus. And then Cam Whitmore, for as much as we like him, he is like a really rough, like, ironically enough, like, people looked at Ahmed Thompson as a project. I think Cam is more of a project than Ahmed Thompson is. I think Ahmed Thompson is a better basketball player today than Cam Whitmore. And so I think Cam he's a little rough. When he's good, he's really good, right? Like, we saw that in Summer League when his shot's falling and when he's into the basket, into the rim, like, he's really good. But there's also times where these are things he showed at Villanova, where he's not the world's best decision maker with the ball. He has a lot of tunnel vision. He can get kind of distracted at times. Like, there's a lot of room for improvement for Cam. Like, to be fair to him, he's also same thing with Jabbar. He's one of the youngest guys in the draft last year. So like, it's okay that he just turned, was it 19 earlier this month? Like, that's fine, bro. You can take your time to come along. So like, I'm not trying to rush him into the rotation. Especially considering the goal for next season is to win. Not win a championship, obviously, like a playoff series, but they want to be in that play-in picture, right? They want to be in that discussion. And so when you have that goal at hand of trying to be competitive, and then you have another guy who, there's already a lot of guys who play his position who are going to get a lot of minutes, and like, he's as talented as you believe. I think Cam will be probably the best small forward on this team when it's all said and done. But like, year one, he's pretty rough. You know what I'm saying? So maybe it doesn't make sense for him to get minutes from game one. But I mean, there's obviously going to be times where somebody gets injured, and then when that happens, it's going to open up minutes for him. I just don't see from game one. I don't know how he plays. It's going to be interesting to me.
Okay, well, I want to close out here with this. Big shout out to Will and Brad. I think this was a really dope podcast. I wanted to like try to dissect the roster, the offseason, everything, and I think we were able to accomplish just the last piece. I want to hear from both of you individually. What are your expectations of the Rockets season? And try to make it as concrete as possible, because I will be putting these out on Twitter. Go ahead.
I'll say this. The expectation is the same expectation that Ime Udoka said. He's never missed the playoffs in his life. He does not expect that to change. That's the expectation. The playoffs are the expectation. You don't go out there and spend all this money, 4 years, $86 million, essentially 4 years, $90 million on Dylan Brooks. You don't give Fred VanVleet a 3-year, $130 million max. You don't do those things if you don't expect this team to make the playoffs. You just brought in a really good coach, a really good coaching staff to go along with it, and you're expecting these young guys on the team to take a leap. So they need to make the playoffs. Jumping from 22 wins to the playoffs is going to be difficult. It's not an easy task, especially in the West. Off tops, I think they'll already be better than the Portland Trailblazers and the Utah Jazz and the San Antonio Spurs. So they got 2 more teams to beat out. And let's see if they can do it. There was a metric that Andy Bailey put out on Twitter. So the Rockets added potentially 18 wins this offseason. That puts them at 40 wins. Is that enough to get to the playoffs or the play-in? We'll see. But I'll be honest with you right now. If this team does not make the play-in and they still show me they can win like 40 games, 41 games, I won't be upset because, okay, they did what they were supposed to do. They did improve. They just didn't reach that threshold of play-in. But I need at least like 38 wins, 40 wins. I need good basketball. I don't expect it to be perfect right out the gate because you can think back to Ime Udoka's Boston Celtics. When he was coaching, they had an extremely slow start. And then they finished the year 28-7, I believe, if I'm right in that regard. But it's going to take some time, especially with a young team that's loose to things and having bad habits. I think it can all be fixed. It's a matter of when it's going to be fixed. But I'm expecting Fred VanVleet to come in, be an amazing leader. I'm expecting the team to feed off of the defense from Dylan Brooks and the coaching staff. They're defensive-minded. I need everything to fall into place. My one worry, I'll say this, is rim protection. That's why they wanted to get a Brook Lopez. Spacing is going to be an issue. If they can fix those 2 things, I think everything is going to come together perfectly. The playoffs, of course, is the expectation.
Okay, we got Brad officially on the record. Will, what are your expectations for the Rockets in 2024?
So, same thing with Brad. I need a play-in push. I just need the 10th seed. And I went and looked at it since the play-in was incepted. That was the 2019-2020 season. And that was the COVID-shortened year, so I will factor that in. What is this quick math? Played 63 games that season.
72 that season.
Sorry, 74. Hold on, my math is off right now.
Engineers.
72. Yeah, there we go. I was just a 10 off. Yeah, there we go. 72 was the 10 seed. I'm sorry, not 72. That was how many games they played. 34 games, 34 wins was the 10 seed the year it was incepted. That following season, same thing. It was the COVID shortened year. So that year they played 72 again, and 33 was the win metric to get to the play in the West. The season before last, 21-22, the metric was, this is a full season, they played 34. That was how many wins to get to the 10th seed. And then last season, the West was like a bloodbath. And it took 40 wins to get to the 10th seed. So it's tough. Like, I'm not going to act like it's going to be easy because the West is really, really stacked right now. Like, if we were in the East, I would have complete confidence we're going to make the play-in. Because we're in the West, and you can make an argument, there's 10 teams that, like, the Mavericks got better this offseason, in my opinion. They didn't even make the playoffs last year.
There's going to be 2 good teams that just don't make it because the conference is that talented. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And then, like, the teams that didn't make it, like, they brought, like, the Jazz, the Spurs, and the Blazers, like, they weren't even in the play-in tournament anyway. So, like, there's no spot being created. It's just going to be somebody who get out there. But I'll say this, like, if they're, like, a game off from the 10th seed, I'm not going to be like, fault the franchise because they were 1 game off. They need to be, like, right there up to the finish line of being the 10th seed. I think that if they are anywhere else other than right there, like 11th seed at the lowest, I think next season will be a failure. But, like, I want them to be at least the 10th seed, though. That is my expectation.
Okay, well, I want to say this first off. Shout out to Will and Brad for again guest appearing on your first episode of Gifted Hoops. For me, as y'all know, I'm a grinder, so like I'm working really hard on the content, things of that nature. Go support their podcast. Again, they just had Operation Good One that got to be talked about on their podcast. Go support that. All their links and all that will be in the description, and also on the Twitter post, which will drop sometime this week. I appreciate y'all so much for talking some hoops with me, and you guys are welcome anytime. I just hit 1,000 subscribers on my YouTube as well. It's taken me 2 years to understand like the content game, because I like to like perfect things a whole lot, and I'm realizing just having consistency and being confident in my approach every time and really dissecting the game of basketball should be like my lane. And that's what, I'm gunning for. So hopefully in this podcast, as a non-Rockets fan, as a Warriors fan, actually, hopefully I was able to facilitate that conversation well, but I really appreciate you guys.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us. I thought you did a really good job. We hit all the right points from the Rockets all season, in this past season, and this upcoming season as well. So keep doing what you're doing. Shout out for 1,000 followers. It's going to continue to grow. That consistency is going to help. But yeah, I'm welcome. You're welcome to come on our podcast, of course, anytime. And if
Love
you ever
it.
want to
Love it. Love it. Well, I'll catch you guys later. Make sure to tap into the Gift Hoops podcast. Again, we are live on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, and other places where you get your podcast content. And the same can be said for my people up here, the Will and Bordeaux podcast. I might be saying it wrong. I don't know how to say your last name, but I promise you the links and all that will be in the description. Go tap into these boys. We'll catch you guys in the next episode of Get the Hoops, where we'll be covering some teams in the Eastern Conference. Peace out, people. Have a good one.